So thank you tonight for coming, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all. Can you hear me? I think so. My name is Jerry, Assistant County of provide information regarding the upcoming sales tax. This is no way, shape, or form any form of advocation or campaign. Provide you the information so that the appropriate decision. Really just a short presentation tonight. By show of hands, how many people have heard about a sales tax, a looming sales tax this November? Good to hear. So this is something that just started, something that's been in the work. So I'm glad to hear that those of you who are here that have at least heard of it. And so tonight I want to talk through the specifics, what you're going to see on the ballot, and then I'm going to talk through some questions that I know I've heard. We've been around the community many times. I've heard some of the same questions. I want to go ahead and re-hit those. And then at the end of that, we got a quick video to show you some other informational literature that we have in a web. We'll have a video to go over that. And then we want to hear from you. If there's questions, we're here to help answer that. So know exactly what you would be for fifth. All right? So this is on the ballot. There will be two questions. The first question will be the approval of a transportation sale of up to $1 million. So this is a either or. So first, that or the money. So take sales tax. $1 after 10 years, it would turn off at that. We just wouldn't have collected the full amount. So that is what transportation is only. I'll get to the information what that includes, but that is question one, all right? That one's pretty straightforward. Question two seems a little really it will be is an approval to issue up to $515 million in bonds to source from the funds that are collected in question number one. And two, really saying this allows County Council the opportunity to expedite getting some projects started. So rather than wait to collect the funds before we can start the project, this allows the County Council right out the gate to have money that will be repaid only by this source of funding. What this is not a separate tax. This is not property tax. This is an opportunity to use the tax from question one to get started on projects that are included in question one. Does that make sense? Okay, I see mostly head nods. Any no's? Okay, so when you go to the voters poll, after you vote for all the local and regional and national, state and national elections, this is at the bottom of the ballot, question one and question two. This is all the information that you will have in front of you to decide whether you question one or question two. What you don't have in front of you will be the project list, okay? So hopefully, does everybody get this pamphlet here? All right, so I'm going to cover what's included in the project list. Exactly, if you unfold the trifold. So if you go to the next slide. So this may be a little bit to read. So follow me. I believe it's in the same order on this, okay? So I'm going to, instead of reading off the screen, I'm going to read off the pamphlet so we can follow along together. These are the exact projects that make up that $950 million. So the first three projects, the Triangle Project, Rebo Road, and SC 46, are regional projects. These are projects that most people in the county drive on, whether it's a daily basis or a routine basis. These projects, how many people have not heard? This is time you've heard of the Triangle Project? Okay. Here. So the Triangle Project is pretty simple. It is the section of 170 from 278 up to 68, from 170 back to Walmart to Argent Boulevard, and Argent Boulevard from Walmart up to 170. And if you put those three, so behind the triangle, round 1 to 46 improvement, 46 in our project is from the traffic circle at SC 170. So as you're going south of Bluffton towards Savannah, that traffic circle out towards the Jasper County line. So that will be improved for that traffic. It also includes intersection type improvements from the circle back towards downtown Bluffton towards all the way to Buckwalter Parkway. So just right out here would be the start of intersection type improvements. Similar to the Triangle Project, so the county line, it would continue to, there's 2 or 3 roads in Jasper County that converge right there just past the county line, SC 170, US 17, and 3. Inward a mile and a half to include that intersection. Project programs were approved, it would be from traffic circle to that newly relocated intersection just inside Jasper. All right? So this is north of the Broad in Beaufort, and this is from Boundary Street down to Bell Bridge, which is the Paris Island Bridge. What's been going on between the town and Beaufort for the last year is a planning charrette on what those improvements need to look like. And we're honing into what the finality of those improvements will be. There will be access improvements, there will be intersection improvements, pedestrian accommodations, some street lighting, undergrounding of utilities, and aesthetics. So finalized, we know that that will be a project and there will be a need for funding to source those improvements. So that improvement is for $75 million. The next group of projects, as you can see here, the completion of, we call it TST3, so Transportation Sales Tax 3 from 2018. So we had three projects for $120 million, and of course, those projects cost more today than they did when we originally planned those in 2018. What's happened since 2018, we've all experienced it, is COVID. So COVID obviously affected our world, but post-COVID, we had a series of high. So in order to complete those projects, there's more funding required to do that. So there's each of those 3 projects. So the bridge project is $90 million. The projects, there was 9 projects on Ladies Island, is $60 million, and then the pathways, additional $30 million. Here, this changes a little bit. I'm not going to hit greenbelts and mass transit. I'll come back to that. I'm going to follow the script inside your handout. So the next 3 projects are municipal projects. So what this is, the first 3 were regional that most everybody drives on a routine basis. The next 3 are municipal projects. So those are local roads that the county is looking at the best interest of the larger network, and just because the town has different interests than the county doesn't make our interest any better than their interest. It just is different interest. It's the same as our interest compared to the state interest It's not that the state's interest is better than ours, it's just different interests. So this is for them to work on projects that is meaningful to them within their municipality. Intersect types of projects. The one difference from the screen to the notes here is the north of the broad transportation system. So that got split up. So each city of Beaufort, the town of Port Royal, and unincorporated area, that's two municipalities, each is $10 million out of that $30 million distribution to those north of the broad towns. The next one is mass transit. So mass transit has an $80 million appropriation, and so mass transit is the movement of more, which Palmetto is our grateful to have the executive director, short term. She retires at the month with us tonight, Miss Mary Lou, and but it also includes the provision. So we have aviation and we also have ferry. That's unique to Beaufort County. Both those are the public transit of hauling groups of people at one time. So that $80 million is to help with Palmetto Breeze and their operational expenditures, and then it will be for capital expenditures for those three elements: the bus system, the ferry system, and the aviation system. The next group is programs, as we refer to them. So this is a long 10-year sales tax. And what we don't know, we know things, we have known unknowns. And what I mean by that is, for instance, the safety, we have an appropriation for safety and traffic flow of $100 million. Today, as we sit, we know that we have intersections that need improvement. Well, once we improve those, then what? We don't know. But we will know that there are going to be intersections or turn lanes or sections of corridors that need some time and attention. And this program, the way it's designed, is that this will be a yearly, we'll raise our hands yearly between us and the municipalities what projects need to be, have selection criteria so that we can bucket will allow us to address that. The next several are in the same measure, so just different projects. Emergency and evacuation and resiliency. So this is, we have several roads throughout the county that flood on dry days. And what I mean by that, whether it's a king tide, high tide, let alone if there's any rain. So the goal there provide some resiliency efforts and make sure that those roads have the availability through all time, all weather. And the same thing on evacuation routes. If there's any upgrades to some of our evacuation route, we just have. Luckily, we were spared relative to other parts, but our evacuation routes are right there. They're definitely something that we don't forget about, and if there's anything that needs to be addressed to make sure during the time of need that they're functioning properly, there's some funding towards that. Pavement preservation and pavement resurfacing and preservation. So we have some resurfacing funds that the county gets through the state already, but compared to the need, it's very limited. And our goal is to make all of the roads, regardless whether nobody knows whether it's a DOT road, a county road, a local road. They just don't want the pothole. Yeah, hopefully we can air and reach the whole curves. This funding will help us get towards that. Dirt road paving. So we have a dirt road paving program already at the county. So this is for paving public dirt roads, so county or municipal owned, not private dirt roads. So this is a public tax and a public resource and can only be expended on public assets. Um, a county reserve, that a lot of that funding is put towards paving of county dirt roads. So this would help us accomplish that. We have about 75 miles. It's about 1.5 or 2 miles. So what this does is really help pour fuel on the fire to fan the flame for that program that we have already established. And then pathways, we have a for the county that maps out the pathways that are priority focus. And so first we're going to complete the old pathways with the $30 million that were set forth in the 2018 sales. But this allows us to start attacking prioritizing that plan. And then lastly is green belts. So green belts, in the provision for the state statute for transportation, it makes this allowance for green belts. And green belts is very close to what we already know and have in green space. And it's very similar to before. Requirements that separates one is preservation as well as traffic flow and management. So anything that we can do to preserve property, conservation is a big thing in Beaufort County. That's one of the things that attracts each and every one of us to live and work here. And so there's an opportunity within the statute to provide for green belt, and there's a $50 million appropriation for that. Any questions on that? Well, we'll do questions at the end. I'm sorry. Let's roll through. So I'm going to through all of them, but you can go ahead. I focus on the questions south of the Broad. We're actually going to have a similar presentation like this tomorrow night, a public hearing in county council chambers. So I expect there to be a northern crowd up there, so I'm going to focus this on the southern crowd. And so one of the questions we emphatically no. And that question that county council had, that was a comment that came up in earlier and so what got one, it's not a project on the regional projects, but the question is, can $30 million municipal funds? And so county council addressed that head on, and they said allowed. And to connect that Bluffton 5B section. And can now what it doesn't provide, if the town wanted to construct a new road, I've heard Will mention, so if they wanted to, that is definitely. Cool. So we have some planned improvements for that, some quick hit projects. The SD46 provides additional. One of the quick hits that we can do out of the safety bucket is when you're coming back from Jasper County, from Savannah, approaching the circle, you have to neck down into one lane. It's a 2-lane circle, but you have to neck down. So as soon as possible, and basically allow 2 lanes to enter the circle right there to help that traffic, because it'll back up all the way towards the neighborhood if you go that route. 46, this was a major thing. I know the town mentioned. Will that designation be removed if we do improve? So we will work with the state to ensure that traffic circle. County doesn't have many of the grand oak trees that we all love, but we will make sure that whatever improvements designation. Bluffton Parkway get resurfaced. You probably some. Why didn't you just pave it? Has anybody questioned that? Yeah, absolutely. Well, the answer is it costs $9 million. We don't have $9 million to reach. So, if we have, it will take a series of to resurface all of it. The resurface that would accomplish that much faster. And then the ominous question: what happens if the referendum doesn't pass? I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know 100%, but I can tell you this: that the roads aren't going to improve themselves without a funding source. So, options. One, the first option is a do-nothing option. So, county council absolutely doesn't have to do anything. Most of the roads that we're talking about are DOT roads. They get to them or they don't. The second option is county. They have some specific projects. County property tax isn't going to raise, or at least not big roads. So those specific projects, they could use the arm of property tax. And a third option is to be done on general election years. So every 2 years, essentially. Failed this year, and county council wanted to bring it back to the voters for another referendum in 2 more years, they could elect to do that as well. So those are kind of the three options: a no, a property tax, or another sales tax. All right, Hilton Head. I don't know if anybody's from Hilton Head. Show of hands. Terry? I'll just address Sun City. I'll go Sun City, then Hilton Head. Anybody from Sun City? Got one? All right. I'll just hit a couple. The entrances at Sun City will be addressed in the Triangle Project. So the 278 main entrance there, the one Jasper, Sergeant Jasper signal. One. The signal will not be met at the demand based off D.R. Horton building the homes. So right now, the county is not moving that project forward. Obviously, that section's in Jasper County anyways. Now that D.R. Horton's moving in there. And will it affect my property taxes? Again, this is you spending. So that's when you will be assessed this tax. This will not be anything on your property tax, whether it's your vehicle, your boat, your land, anything. So completely distinct from property tax. Does that make sense? Okay. That's the last one. And I've heard this on project. I've heard that more than once. And so it's not double dipping. All the money that was set aside in 2018, the $120 million, is still for those projects. That money has not gone anywhere. It is sitting in the bank account, whether it's been expended already for design efforts or it's ready there for construction and is sitting there. The difference is, like I said, since COVID, the National Highway Index provided by Federal Highway, they keep up with it quarterly. It has grown by nearly 70% since COVID. So there is a delta on with this. Every county that essentially has a sales tax this November is addressing this same concern. And the DOT is addressing the concern, and every other state in America is addressing that same concern. So double dipping, we're add more to the pot, make the Hilton Head, the second one, third one, Sea Pine Circle, out of their municipality funds. We heard a lot about it. Said Hilton Head, you can do whatever you want with your $30 million, but you do need to address. Then, if the referendum doesn't pass, $50 million in this new sales tax to help fund the Delta. So the project was $300 million. Since COVID, it's gone up by approximately 70%, which brings the total to $490 million. So we have funding source. So we have DOT and the State Infrastructure Bank. So what we're proposing to both of those funding stakeholders is we're going to try to come up with our share, our prorated share that we already have. We have the $300 million for the project. We're trying to source the $190 million delta. We're trying to make this with our sales tax that will in the project. If that funding doesn't happen, one of the sources of funding is a grant. And inside that grant from the State Infrastructure Bank, there are grant assurances and grant requirements. Second, so if we're not able to source the gap, we have to meet the measures of that grant. And who knows what that means, that whether we have to come up with another funding source or another mechanism, or if they pull that grant back. If they pull that grant back, the project as defined today is no longer a project. And due to spans is in need of reconstruction essentially now. And so if that comes to that measure, then DOT, it's a DOT-owned road, they will have to move in and address that one single span and rehab that. And in doing so, it will be a painful effort because they will have to shift traffic from one bridge to make dual traffic on the existing westbound bridges for them to facilitate a replacement in place of where they existed. So it wouldn't be a new alignment, it'd be a brand new bridge. Sake, we don't get that's, you got to kind of understand, and that's a question we've been, and that is in the realm of possibilities. All right, so more information. This QR code, which is the same QR code, takes you to the county website. So we have a web, countypenny.com, which has more what's not. Where this was set up and established by county council, it has that information too. Video that we're going to load up. You can see that, and then you can go and on your own. So we're going to tee that up now, and then we'll entertain some questions.
Just to reiterate and stress, nothing here says is actual information to give informed decisions. Just to the duty of that, is factual information to give informed decisions.
all the present and get that up and loaded. So if you have a question, we have being recorded and live. If you'll come up and address the microphone and state your name, and then this is a little more than a council meeting, so and then council typically questions, but this is open. Either myself or will try to address your question. Ms. Marie, registration. If you have a voter question, operations or poll, has that intel? Someone has a question from there. Yep.
That committee will be part and parcel of taking all of the information that has been dictated in here. The project, the source of funding, when they start, evaluating them, and what we do them in. It's just the order in which
Ultimately, whether this project is funded or that project, whether it's a resurfacing project or so the recommendation and count. And whether it's a white fence or a black fence, that'll be part of each process it develops.
If a situation where it goes back to the council.
It'll come through council, and they'll be the ones that appropriate the funds for each of the program basis. Okay, we're going to do X number of projects for this dollar amount in safety.
But what I'm wondering about, because it's so general, it says, okay, question. The one-
Actually going to make a presentation. The resurfacing that road.
Okay, so, yeah, okay, a lot of decisions yet to be, yeah.
Assignments that are dictated off the project, the program.
traffic or whatever, but no specific. In general, I understand that there is some provision in state law to reduce sales over 80 or 80. Is that going to apply to this? Get that. That. Okay.
Oh, what is the, so if the town council or if the county council has some political dynamics to it, which it does, and they all do, could they potentially say, you know what, we're not going to spend any money for 3 years. We're going to save it up. We're not going to bond it. We're going to just hang on to it for a while and rethink this whole thing. So do they have that autonomy as a group to kind of change the fundamentals or the basic visioning of this?
That council has is they have 10 years and these projects. So if they want to wait 3 years to start the project, that's within their right. If they want to get started on the project on day one and question 2 is approved and they don't have the money collected, they but what they have is the authority per the statute. The statute is council the authorities they have within this tax. They don't have the authority to take a project that's completely unfounded, not on the list, and a funded project and move it to something that's not on the list. However, if a project, either 278, for example, we have $90 million towards 278, and for some reason that project dies on the vine, and there is no longer a 278 project as it's defined, then that project can be reappropriated to other projects or programs within that are already set and defined in, because behind all this, county council, in order to get it to the election, they had to do an ordinance, and an ordinance is basically local law. And so in doing that ordinance, they had to spell out all these projects as it's shown here. And so in that statute, you can reappropriate if another project is unfunded, but you can't do it outside the projects that are defined. What if they chose to, if this was unsuccessful and they chose to fund a project, it would have to be a majority that chose. And then they would raise the millage to accommodate that. That council wants to increase. The limit is every 5 had over the last years is the major appreciation. So the value of your house has increased dramatically. So they can't match your assessed value to your current home valuation. They can only increase that assessed value by 15% of where it was 5 years ago. And then based upon that is how much the county can tax or issue in debt against that assessed value.
Budget already for that year. It's only if it doesn't fit within the current budget. One of the options for the project may or may not include a mill increase. There's going to be no increase for some of these projects. County will have to assess each individual case on a case-by-case basis and assess what the current budget allows for, and if there's a need to increase the budget to allow for that project.
Okay. I understand that. The question that you can.
So whatever, say there's $100 million for safety and traffic flow. The only that can move is if that project no longer exists and there's another underfunded project in the program. Safety and traffic flow, the way those programs are designed is I don't see us having more money than we do projects over a 10-year horizon. So from that perspective, that money is locked. The ones that would move would be others like a 278 project that no longer exists. And that money could move. It would also have to come back to. That's right. It's referred to.
Kind of like double.
Not really doubling, but I'm saying
If the retail buys something wholesale from a product supplier, that's not being taxed in this tax. Only the retail sale when the citizen or the resident or the tourist is buying from the retailer. That's when the tax occurs. So it's not a double.
and it's only on, for lack of a better term, discretionary funds. There are certain food items, gasoline, light, they're not, when you go in, this is a 1% sales tax. Those items that you fill in that bucket of taxable items. And so,
And the retail establish that with their. we don't have a yearly revenue, a yearly revenue collection from the program from Beaufort County is about $70 million a year, and it grows as the county grows. So $70 million, if you take 40% of that, that means $28 million is being paid by out-of-towners. Sure. Yep. Statute, the state statute makes that provision where it can, it doesn't matter whether it's this council or two councils away from where we are today. When this was elected, when this was voted on, this was the project. The time it can be project essentially is no longer or runs under budget, then it can be reappropriated at that. Well, 278, move forward on 278. If there's reasons beyond county council's control why that project cannot be met, then that project is no longer needed. Another would be if we project another project in the list. Is a prime example. Project is the highest ranked project in the region. That project is needed. So I don't see the need. Circumstances beyond our control. At that. Yeah, go ahead. I'm glad you're going to be one of the.
Not as.
It's the way that will not fully take on
Source at the state level and even local level. But at the state level, they have a basically $2.5 billion budget for DOT. And most of that is made up gas tax. And we've, over the last 6 years, had a 12-cent increase to get us more in line with our neighbors in Georgia and North Carolina. So we're at 28 cents when you fill up. That's how much the gas tax is. So that $2.5 billion, the need is far greater than that. So they have 4 priorities. Than the county. If there's interest that the county has that may not be a state interest, they just don't have enough money to spread it out to all the different. Hence the reason why they defer to locals. If you want to do anything beyond their 4 priorities, that's how the state has set themselves up. Yeah, other states are set up. Some of Georgia is a good example. Basically, Georgia, they DOT only owns the interstates and some primary, like a US 278. Georgia would be county or municipality owned already. They depend heavily on sales tax, local sales tax as well, but our state is set up differently than other state DOTs.
So this question goes back to the triangle project. It's already in progress. That work's already.
Well, so it's construction work. Who has driven 278 and 170 and seen the paving out there? So those are, as we're calling it, a short-term project. So it's a Band-Aid, full measure. And so the bigger project was out next time. Beaufort County and DOT all went in on that project. It's about an $8 million project for the improvement to make to the loop faster, get it moved to 278, and to get it off, and then a couple other intersections along the way. So that's in progress and will be complete here very, very soon. Yeah, so the paving should be done here in a couple weeks. But that's just step 1 to a larger project.
So, with that being said, why do you have to have special provisions for like the pathway? You know, why can't the pathway be included in the road project so that, you know, the money's already there?
Yep, so on the triangle it will be. So in the bicycle and the pedestrian plan, wherever we have a road project that has a pathway in it, the terminus of that project, so for the triangle. There will not be a pathway on 278 because that's not the corridor where we want pedestrians.
That's part of the East Coast Greenway initiative to tie Beaufort, northern to southern Beaufort County.
Yeah, but it is included in the East Coast Greenway plan, but that section, there's no pathway presently. With that project funding will include pathway.
One more question on this, with advisory. You know, the county,
Private.
so don't know. You're not going to want to put school bus, especially, you know, off 270.
that Chuck's talking about is from Buckwalter to Rose Hill, up kind of towards 278. That's what you're talking about, where the school is interested in potentially putting sourcing a project there. Is the southern portion of that kind of boundary, and in 5B, regardless of developed or not, program would be sourced to that Bluffton 5B. Now, if the town and the school district find other funding and out the sales tax, it's their prerogative. But county council isn't supporting funds from this program.
But I do have, how many of these projects we're talking about are bid ready?
Time to develop. Other projects, there are smaller safety projects throughout the county already being designed. They just don't have a fund force. So those are the ones that are ready.
What's your project? How many of those have been through all the engineering and the environmental studies and all that? Because we know that takes,
Yeah.
you tell me what's the time frame on that.
Yeah, the big haven't been completed. The process.
What's the normal time?
So big projects, major infrastructure project could be from 4 years to 10 years. The impact evaluation, whether it's they have a small, medium, and large version of that, which small, medium, or large it'll have to go through the process. It can be typically from start of design through going out to bid, could be as short as 2 years or as long as 4 or 5. Those big projects, we have funding accommodated for that. So for that reason, we don't hyperinflation like we did in school and predicted that we're going for a period of time. So that's the reason why we have the delta on our projects that we do and the rest of the state do. So we have a mild anticipation for included in. Council said in the 30 million so highways, all these different Nectar Road plan. They go Buck. Parker's towards 278, and I may be off on the roads, but somewhere up there where it connects to this property will the 30 million towards their
They're actually separate connector running from 278 to the proposed 5B.
so
That-
again,
And that's right next to our,
name that
connector. Okay, thank you.
So, my question is about, can you just delineate and define, when you say 278, can you give us a little bit? Before you do, I just want to say to the county, council, which very often, and county staff, for finally, after I've been here since '78, came with my business, and thank you for finally having a vision that will help us to create our future, define our future, decide our future, instead of just making a prediction about our future. This is big, this is huge, and I know it's a process that's so helpful to think 10 years ahead and to have a comprehensive vision that makes sense. So thank you.
it is the same parameters as the existing project, which is from Moss Creek intersection, so on the Bluffton side of the bridges, extending across the bridges. It replaces each of the four, there are 4 independent bridges, and goes all the way to Spanish Wells, so right before you get to Cross Island Park. So it's 4.5 miles, and what it includes is a new structure, a 6-lane bridge, 12-foot pathway on the southern side of the bridge. So this would Buckingham Plantation would tie it across the bridge all the way to Spanish Wells, where there's pathway. So that